In the book, you said that the highest priest of this religion is Mr. Stanley Plotkin, and you had a chance to cross-examine him on the case under oath. What did you find out on this case?
Well, when I got to cross-examine Dr. Plotkin, depose Dr. Plotkin, and so before trial, so I got to sit in a room with him for about 9 hours. And the purpose of a deposition is before trial is for me to ascertain from the witness of the other side, what evidence do they have? What is it based on? What is it that they're going to rely upon, right? Now, this case involved a child where the mother did not want to vaccinate. The kid was completely unvaccinated. She was a few years old, completely healthy, by the way. No health issues, zero, okay? Where the dad, the parents are getting divorced, now wanted to start vaccinating, right? After all the years of not vaccinating, their completely healthy child. They brought Dr. Plotkin in to give the opinion that the child should get all the vaccines. So obviously, that means that I wanted to know what evidence do you have to support, for example, that giving this child all these vaccines is safe. And so I had an opportunity to ask him that. Now, back then, I certainly was expecting some twists and turns. I didn't know as much as I know today, for sure. I knew plenty, but it's not like I've had 7 or 8 more years almost of work in this area. If you go to my office, there's not as many law books as there are medical textbooks. There are vaccinology, immunology, because that's the work I engage in. And so, during those almost 9 hours, what I found was that really the worst fears that are expressed about vaccines and the lack of proper safety are in large part true. And you have it out of the horse's mouth. People say, well, we should have a debate on vaccines. All right, well, go watch the deposition. You can see a debate for 9 hours, between a drooling lawyer, right? I'm just a lawyer. What do I know? And the world's leading vaccinologist. Surely he should have the answers. Surely he should be able to substantiate they were properly trialed before licensure, that there's proper post-licensure safety. You can watch the video, you can watch the deposition and judge for yourself, or obviously read the book, and I go through some of the choice excerpts and I lay them out in chapter 1.
Yes, I invite everybody to take a look who wants to know the details, but there is one important thing inside. You ask him about clinical trials, and also you ask him about post-clinical trials after a licensee. And I read one study, and one of the co-authors was also Mr. Stanley Plotkin, and this study was published last year in autumn. And inside, they conclude they do not do enough clinical trials after licensee because there are lack of funds. That means they are admitting they are not taking care of adverse events after vaccination because they don't have enough money, and they need more money for it.
Listen, so my firm I mentioned has about 50 folks that do vaccine work. You can't sue vaccine manufacturers for vaccine injury almost ever, okay? But you can bring a claim in a federal program here in the U.S. And in that program, you typically have to prove, for most injuries that you bring, causation. You have to prove the vaccine caused the injury. So we need good clinical trial and post-licensure data just when we have to substantiate claims. And I can tell you categorically, the notion that there's robust data and science out there that supports vaccine safety is just an absolute falsehood. It is not true. The clinical trials relied upon to license childhood vaccines, almost all are useless for assessing safety. Number one, not a single one of the routine injected childhood vaccines had a placebo control group. None. Not only that, which means that one group of kids got something inert, something that is safe, okay? And even when another vaccine was used as the control, which you can do if there is a properly licensed one, that vaccine was never properly licensed based on placebo-controlled trial. You can go down the chain. It doesn't exist. I lay it out in chapter 10 of my book. But even if they were properly controlled, right? You had a group that got the vaccine with a group that didn't. You still need to then review safety long enough. And virtually all these trials review safety for only days or weeks. And then even if you had a proper control and they reviewed safety for long enough, which they don't do, you need enough kids in the trial to be properly powered. Like that Hep B vaccine we talked about earlier, Recombavax HB, the very first vaccine on the U.S. schedule, it was licensed for children based on a clinical trial. I can't even make this up. It's all on the FDA website. It had 147 kids, monitored safety for 5 days after injection, and there's no control group. That's a laughable study. That did not affirm its safety, but that's true of most child vaccines. So most of them come to market without knowing their safety profile. That's just a fact, just a fact. Then after they come to market, who's got the moneyed interest to do the post-licensure safety reviews properly? Nobody. There are a series of studies that have looked at kids with no vaccines or one or more that have done that comparison. There's about 10 of them, and they are consistent. They're smaller. Some are based on surveys. Some are based on looking at small pediatric practices, but they're consistent. They show the kids that have no vaccines are far healthier than the kids that have one or more vaccines. The kids who are vaccinated often have multiple times the rates of chronic health issues. And which chronic health issues? The very ones that, at least in the US, have exploded from the 1980s when we had only 3 injections in the first year of life, to today, where we have over 40 to 50% of kids with chronic disease in America. And we have about 25 injections by the first year of life. As of yesterday, 18 injections. And most of these chronic health issues that exploded are related to some form of immune system dysregulation. They can't figure out what's causing it. Maybe they should start with the very products they're injecting over and over again to modify the immune system.